The hot dog hit my plate with a wet slap, landing sideways across the paper like a piece of evidence at a crime scene. My nephew Austin stood over me, all 12 years old and entitled smirk, holding the tongs like a weapon. "Charity cases eat last," he said, loud enough for the entire backyard to hear. And they laughed. Every single one of them laughed. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. If these stories resonate with you, please hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep bringing you these real stories of people who finally said enough. I sat there at the plastic folding table in the corner of my sister's sprawling backyard, the cheap table they saved for overflow guests and people they didn't really want there. The table wobbled on the uneven grass. Around me, my family, my blood, sat at the real patio furniture under the shade of a custom pergola I had helped finance 2 summers ago. They were eating premium steaks from the grill, the expensive kind from the butcher shop downtown. I was looking at a gas station hot dog that Austin had just thrown at me like I was a stray dog begging for scraps. My name is Cassidy. I'm 34 years old, and for the past 12 years, I've been the invisible ATM of my family. I work as a senior accountant at a mid-sized firm in Denver, pulling in about $90,000 a year. Not wealthy, but comfortable. Stable. The kind of income that should have let me build a real life for myself. Instead, every spare dollar I had went into the black hole of my family's endless needs. My sister Whitney's mortgage when her husband lost his job. My mother's medical bills when insurance wouldn't cover her procedures. My nephew's private school tuition wasn't good enough for their precious boy. I had paid for it all, quietly, without complaint, because that's what family does. Right? But sitting there with a cold hot dog on my plate while they ate like royalty 10 feet away, I finally understood something that made my stomach turn cold. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as a resource. A utility. Something you use until it breaks, then throw away. Whitney was holding court at the head of the main table, her blonde hair perfect in the afternoon sun, her designer sunglasses probably worth more than my entire outfit. She was showing off photos on her phone, some vacation they were planning to take to Cabo. "We found this amazing resort," she was saying, her voice carrying across the yard with that practiced enthusiasm of someone performing for an audience. "All-inclusive, right on the beach." Austin is so excited. My brother-in-law Derek raised his beer, grinning. "We've been working so hard. We deserve it." Working hard. Derek hadn't had a full-time job in 3 years. He did freelance graphic design, which mostly meant he played video games in the basement and occasionally made a logo for someone's startup that never went anywhere. Whitney worked part-time at a boutique, the kind of job that was more about the employee discount than the paycheck. And yet somehow, they lived in a 4-bedroom house in a neighborhood where the HA fees alone were more than my rent. I knew how they afforded it. I had the spreadsheets to prove it. My mother, Diane, was sitting next to Whitney, laughing at something Austin had said. She hadn't even looked at me since I arrived an hour ago. No hug, no greeting, just a vague gesture toward the folding table like I was supposed to know that was my spot. My father had died 6 years ago, and since then, my mother had moved in with Whitney. It made sense on paper. Whitney had the space. But what nobody acknowledged was that I paid for that space. I paid the property taxes when they fell behind. I paid for the roof repair after the hailstorm. I paid for the new furnace when the old one died in January. I paid and paid and paid. And in return, I got a folding table in the corner and a nephew who called me for a charity case. I looked down at the hot dog. It was cold now, the buns starting to get soggy. My hands were shaking, but not from anger. Not yet. I was still in that numb place, that place where your brain is trying to process something so fundamentally wrong that it can't quite believe it's real. Around me, the party continued. Classic rock played from a Bluetooth speaker. The smell of grilling meat hung heavy in the air. Someone was laughing too loudly, that fake performative laugh people do at family gatherings when they're trying to prove they're having a good time. I stood up. The folding chair scraped against the concrete patio with a harsh sound that cut through the chatter. A few people glanced over, then looked away. I walked across the yard, past the pergola, past the main table where my family sat like they were posing for a magazine spread. I walked into Whitney's house through the sliding glass door. Inside, the air conditioning hit me like a slap. The house was immaculate. Hardwood floors that gleamed. Granite countertops in the kitchen. A massive flat-screen TV mounted above a gas fireplace, which I had helped pay to install. I stood in the middle of the living room, and for the first time in 12 years, I let myself really see it. This wasn't Whitney's success. This was mine. Every piece of furniture, every appliance, every carefully chosen paint color existed because I had made it possible. And they thanked me by throwing a hot dog at me and laughing. I pulled out my phone. My hands were steadier now. I opened my banking app and looked at the numbers. I had been doing this for so long it had become automatic. Transfer money, pay bills, keep the family afloat. I was so deep in the pattern I had forgotten I had a choice. But I had a choice. I opened my text messages and found the thread with Whitney. The last message from her was from 3 days ago. Can you send $500 for Austin's soccer camp? Registration closes Friday. I had sent it. I always sent it. I typed, I need to talk to you. I hit send and waited. Through the window, I could see them still laughing, still eating, still existing in a world where I was a footnote, a background character whose only purpose was to make their lives easier. Whitney glanced at her phone, read my message, and I watched her face do something complicated. Annoyance, maybe. Or inconvenience. She stood up, said something to Derek, and walked toward the house. When she came through the sliding door, she had that expression on her face, the one she always wore when I was about to become a problem she had to manage. What's wrong? She asked, her voice tight. Is this about the hot dog thing? Austin was just joking. You know how kids are. I looked at her. Really looked at her. My younger sister. The one I had protected, supported, and carried for over a decade. And I realized I didn't recognize her anymore. Maybe I never had. No, I said. This isn't about the hot dog. Then what? She crossed her arms, impatient. Outside, someone turned up the music. I took a breath. I'm done. She blinked. Done with what? All of it. The money. The bailouts. The bills. I'm done. For a second, she just stared at me as I had spoken in a foreign language. Then she laughed, that same dismissive laugh I had heard from the backyard. Cassidy, come on. Don't be dramatic. If you're upset about, I've given you over $200,000 in the last 12 years. The laugh died. The room went very quiet. I tracked it, I continued, my voice calm, factual. Every transfer, every check, every bill I paid directly. $214,000. That's not counting the smaller stuff. The dinners I paid for. The gifts. The random emergencies that only I could solve. Whitney's face had gone pale. You were keeping track? I'm an accountant, Whitney. Of course I was keeping track. She shook her head, recovering. That's what family does. We help each other. When have you ever helped me? The question hung in the air like smoke. Whitney opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. We're there for you emotionally. You threw a hot dog at me and called me a charity case. Austin did that. Not me. You laughed. She looked away. He's a kid. He doesn't understand. He understands exactly what you've taught him. That I'm less than you. That I exist to serve you. I pulled up my banking app and showed her the screen. This ends today. No more transfers. No more bailouts. You're on your own. Her eyes widened as the reality started to sink in. You can't do that. We have bills. The mortgage payment is due in 2 weeks and we're short. Not my problem. Cassidy. Her voice cracked. You can't just abandon us. Watch me. I walked past her, back out through the sliding door into the sunlight. Every eye in the backyard turned toward me. I walked to the folding table, picked up my purse, and headed for the gate. Behind me, I heard Whitney come out, her voice rising. Cassidy, wait. We need to talk about this. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I got in my car and drove away, leaving them with their perfect house and their perfect life, and the very imperfect realization that the foundation they'd been standing on had just walked away. That night, alone in my small apartment, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open. The silence was strange. Usually, by this time, I would have gotten at least 3 texts. Mom is asking for gas money. Whitney needed groceries. Derek wanted help with a bill. But tonight, my phone was quiet. I opened my spreadsheet. It was something I had been maintaining for years, partly out of professional habit, partly out of some dim sense that one day I might need proof. Every transaction was there. Dates, amounts, purposes. I had even kept screenshots of the text messages, the requests that always came phrased as emergencies, as temporary setbacks, as one-time things that somehow became every-time things. $214,000. I stared at that number. That was a down payment on a house. That was a retirement fund. That was a life I could have been building for myself instead of building for them. And what had I gotten in return? A folding chair and a cold hot dog. My phone buzzed. I looked down. It was a text from Whitney. We need to talk. This is serious. I deleted it. Another buzz. Derek this time. Cass, come on. Don't be like this. Another. Mom, Whitney told me what happened. You're being childish. I stared at that one for a long time. Childish. I had been paying their bills for 12 years and I was being childish. I deleted it. Over the next 3 days, my phone became a war zone. Texts, calls, voicemails. They cycled through every strategy. Guilt. How can you do this to your family? Anger. You owe us after everything we've done for you. Bargaining. Just help us through this month and we'll figure something out. And finally, when nothing else worked, threats. Don't expect us to be there when you need something. I didn't respond to any of it. I had said what I needed to say. Now I was watching them realize what I had known all along. They couldn't survive without me. But I could survive just fine without them. On day 4, Whitney showed up at my apartment. I watched through the peephole as she knocked, waited, knocked again. Cassidy, I know you're in there. Please. We need to talk. Her voice was strained, desperate. I stayed silent. After 10 minutes, she left. On day 7, the calls stopped. The silence was eerie, like the moment after a storm when you're not sure if it's really over or just gathering strength. I went to work, came home, and lived my life. For the first time in over a decade, I had money left over at the end of the month. Real money. I opened a savings account and made the first deposit. It felt like planting a seed in soil that had been barren for years. But I knew it wasn't over. People like Whitney don't give up that easily. They just change tactics. The breaking point came 3 weeks later. I was at work when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Cassidy Porter? A woman's voice, professional and clipped. Yes, this is Amanda from Denver Regional Hospital. We have your mother, Diane Porter, here in the emergency room. She's stable, but she's asking for you. My stomach dropped. What happened? She had a fall. Possible hip fracture. We're running tests now. I closed my eyes. A fall. An emergency. The kind of thing that required money and attention and family rallying together. The kind of thing that would pull me right back into the web I had just escaped. Is Whitney there? I asked. A pause. Her daughter? Yes, she's here. Then my mother isn't alone. Thank you for calling. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I sat at my desk, staring at my computer screen without seeing it. This was the test. This was them gambling that I couldn't really walk away when it mattered. A mother in the hospital. What kind of daughter doesn't show up? The kind who's been used as a credit card for 12 years. The kind who sat at a folding table while her family ate steaks. The kind who finally learned that blood doesn't entitle people to bleed you dry. I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't call. I worked until 5, drove home, made dinner, and watched TV. I lived my life. And I waited. The next day, Whitney called. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. And again. On the 4th call, I answered. You didn't come. Her voice was raw, accusatory. No. Mom is in the hospital and you didn't come. You were there. She wasn't alone. That's not the point. You're her daughter. So are you. Silence. Then, quieter. The bills, Cassidy. The hospital bills. We can't. Not my problem. She's your mother. And you're my sister. And for 12 years, I supported both of you. I gave everything I had. And you repaid me by treating me like garbage. So no, Whitney. I'm not coming. I'm not paying. I'm done. I hung up before she could respond. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind churning. Was I a monster? Was I wrong? Normal people didn't abandon their mothers in the hospital. Normal people didn't cut off their families. But normal families didn't treat people the way mine had treated me. I thought about my father. He died suddenly, a heart attack at 59. We'd been close. He was the one who encouraged me to go into accounting, who told me I was smart and capable. After he died, I stepped up. I took care of Mom. I helped Whitney when Derek lost his job. I became the responsible one, the rock, the one everyone leaned on. And somewhere along the way, being helpful turned into being used. I got up and made tea. Sat at my kitchen table in the dark. Outside, the city hummed with distant traffic. I pulled up my spreadsheet again and looked at the numbers. All that money, all that time, all that sacrifice. And what had it bought me? Contempt. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. How could you do this to me? I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back, I could ask you the same question. I blocked her number. Over the next month, I learned what it felt like to be free. Really free. I paid off my credit card. I bought new clothes, the kind that fit properly and didn't come from clearance racks. I went out to dinner without checking my bank balance first. Small things. Normal things. Things most people took for granted, but felt like luxuries to me. And slowly, information filtered back to me through mutual friends and distant relatives. Whitney and Derek had to sell the house. Mom moved into a small apartment covered by Medicare. Austin had to switch to public school. Their perfect life, the one I'd been bankrolling, collapsed like a house of cards the moment I stopped holding it up. Part of me felt guilty. That old programming, the voice that said family comes first, that said you don't abandon people when they need you. But another part of me, the part that was growing stronger every day, knew the truth. They hadn't needed me. They'd need my money. And those are not the same thing. The final confrontation came 2 months after the barbecue. Whitney showed up at my apartment again, but this time she didn't knock. She was waiting by my car when I came home from work. She looked different. Her designer sunglasses were gone, replaced by regular ones from Target. Her hair wasn't perfect anymore. We need to talk, she said. I unlocked my car and started putting my work bag inside. No, we don't. Cassidy, please. Her voice broke. We're losing everything. I know. You know? That's it? You're just going to stand there and watch us fall apart. I turned to face her. Whitney, I watched myself fall apart for 12 years. I worked overtime to pay your bills. I skipped vacations to cover your emergencies. I put my life on hold so you could live yours. And you repaid me by laughing when your son called me for a charity case. He's sorry. We're all sorry. No, you're not. You're desperate. There's a difference. Her face crumpled. I don't know what to do. Derek can't find work. Mom's medical bills are piling up. We're drowning. Then swim. What? Figure it out. Get a full-time job. Cut your expenses. Do what the rest of us do. I got in my car. Through the window, I could see her standing there, looking lost. I rolled down the window halfway. You're going to be okay, Whitney. You'll just have to work for it now. Like I always did. I drove away. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called an old friend, someone I'd lost touch with because I never had time or money to maintain friendships. We talked for 2 hours. She invited me to a party that weekend. I said yes. At the party, surrounded by people who knew nothing about my family drama, I felt like a different person. Lighter. Someone asked what I did for fun. I realized I didn't have an answer. For 12 years, my fun had been working extra hours to pay someone else's bills. But that was going to change. I started taking pottery classes on Tuesday nights. I joined a hiking group that met on weekends. I got a cat, a gray tabby I named Jasper, who didn't care how much money I made or who I was related to. He just wanted food and chin scratches. It was the healthiest relationship I'd had in years. 3 months after the barbecue, I was sitting in my living room when I got an email. It was from Whitney, but not a personal one. It was addressed to me and several other family members, a group message. The subject line read, "Family meeting this Sunday." I opened it. The message was long, rambling, filled with veiled accusations and thinly disguised demands. She wanted to clear the air and move forward as a family. She wanted everyone there. It was important. I deleted it. Sunday came and went. I spent it hiking with my new group, breathing mountain air, feeling my legs burn in a good way. My phone buzzed a few times, probably texts from the meeting, but I didn't check. When I got home that evening, sweaty and tired and genuinely happy, I finally looked. 7 missed calls. 12 texts. 3 voicemails. I didn't listen to them. I didn't read them. I blocked the numbers I hadn't blocked yet and turned off my phone. The next morning, I woke up to silence. Real silence. No guilt, no demands, no emergencies. Just the sound of Jasper purring next to me and the coffee maker gurgling in the kitchen. I got up, made breakfast, and went to work. Lived my life. A year after the barbecue, I had $30,000 in savings. 30,000. I stared at the number on my banking app and felt something crack open in my chest. This was what financial security felt like. This was what happened when you stopped lighting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. I bought a condo. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. 2 bedrooms, a balcony with a mountain view, hardwood floors I didn't have to share with anyone. The day I moved in, I stood in the empty living room and cried. Not sad tears. Relief. This was mine. I had built this. Nobody could take it away because nobody else had paid for it. I furnished it slowly, carefully, choosing each piece myself. A comfortable couch. A real dining table, not a folding one. Art for the walls. Plants for the balcony. I made it beautiful. I made it home. Occasionally, I'd hear things through the grapevine. Whitney and Derek divorced. Mom was dating someone new. Austin was doing okay in public school, actually thriving now that the pressure of private school was off. They were surviving. Just like I knew they would. And me? I was doing more than surviving. I was building something real. Something that couldn't be taken away or thrown back in my face or used against me. I was building a life that was actually mine. Sometimes, late at night, I'd think about that barbecue. The hot dog on the paper plate. Austin's smirk. The laughter. And instead of feeling hurt, I'd feel grateful. Because that moment, as painful as it was, had been exactly what I needed. It was the way-up call. The line crossed. The final proof that I owed them nothing. They had called me a charity case. And they were right, in a way. I had been giving charity for years. Unearned, unappreciated charity. But charity only works when the recipient acknowledges the gift. When they had laughed instead, they'd voided the contract. I learned something important that year. You can't save people who don't want to save themselves. You can't fix people who don't think they're broken. And you can't make people value you by devaluing yourself. The best revenge isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It's building a life so good that the people who took you for granted can't reach it. It's saving yourself instead of saving them. It's choosing your own peace over their chaos. If you've ever been the family ATM, the one everyone takes from but nobody gives to, I want you to know something. You don't owe anyone your life. Not your parents, not your siblings, not your children. Blood is supposed to be a bond, not a leash. And the moment it becomes a leash is the moment you're allowed to cut it. I haven't spoken to Whitney in over a year. I don't miss her. I miss the idea of what a sister should be, but I never actually had that. What I had was an expensive illusion I couldn't afford anymore. My apartment, my condo now, doesn't have room for folding tables. Everyone who sits at my table is there because I want them there, because they add something real to my life, because they see me as a person, not a resource. And if someone can't meet that standard, they don't get a seat. It took me 34 years to learn that lesson. I hope you learn it faster. If you've ever had to choose yourself over family who only saw you as useful, type freedom in the comments. Let's remind each other that we made the right choice. And if you're still in that situation, still being drained by people who don't appreciate you, I want you to know, you can leave. You can choose yourself. And it's not selfish. It's survival. Thanks for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please like and subscribe. These stories matter because they remind us we're not alone. Until next time, remember, the only person you're truly responsible for saving is yourself.